Okay, I just saw Kong, Skull Island, and got out of the theater, say about 10 to 15 minutes or so ago. It's a pretty long movie. I'd say it's about, give or take, two and a half hours long, somewhere in there, including trailers and credits. Anyway, obviously, this, like I said in my last review, this ties in a bit to the 2014 Godzilla movie. And we'll touch on a lot of those connections. Obviously, they're building towards a new King Kong versus Godzilla. I don't think it's not the next Godzilla movie. I know that. That's a different one. I think that's called Godzilla King of the Monsters. I may be wrong on that. But the movie Kong Skull Island itself starts in World War II as two pilots, one American, one Japanese, crash on an island. Crash on the Skull Island. Turns out, like, the reason Skull Island has been hidden from the maps for so long is that it seems to be perpetually surrounded by this big storm. It's in the eye of this storm, and so everyone just sort of skirts around it. And the few that have actually tried to go into it disappear and never come back. The two pilots start fighting, but then they come across Kong, and it just sort of then jumps to 1973. John Goodman is part of a group called Monarch. His character is Randolph. Or Randa, they call him both. I think his name is Randy Randolph, or at least that's what it's stated at one point. And it looks like he's sort of a munitions manufacturer, or a scientific study group that Monarch is. Basically, because the Vietnam War is ending, he knows he's a satellite picture actually managed to take a picture of Skull Island very, very briefly. He wants to convince. He convinces the senator that it warrants investigation, but he'll need a military escort, and there's also a geological survey that's going on kind of in that area. And the way they convince it is there could be minerals on this, there could be an herb that could cure cancer, or anything. Anyway, as I said, the Vietnam War is ending, and that's where a troop that's kind of packing up and getting ready to go home, that's headed by Colonel Packard, that's the Samuel L. Jackson character. Sorry, I gotta put my notes here. Basically gets assigned to this last mission. They go throughout the film. You could tell this thing was shot to be in 3D because there's a lot of 3D gimmick things that go on. There's a lot of like propeller blades going into the camera as they fly across. They all fly into the way through. There's debris everywhere and stuff like that. But basically, they're trying to drop seismic grenades so they could better get a geological survey of the island. They have to fly in through the storm in these helicopters. They get through the storm. The way they do it, they show the storm. It's like all the helicopters are flying through, the lightning strikes going by, and then there's this, like I said, the 3D gimmick. There's this close-up on a bobblehead of Richard Nixon, and it's going like, and it just stops. Like I said, 3D gimmick. It's then that they, like I said, they're dropping. One group lands and sets up a base camp. Then the other helicopters go out and they start dropping these seismic bombs to get a geological survey, and that immediately draws the attention of Kong, who starts smashing the helicopters. He's grabbing them by the blades. He's getting, but it's like Kong is actually getting beaten too, because you can see him getting cut. He's getting shot. He does bleed several times. He smashes the helicopters. Several of the helicopters. Also on the team, there's an expert tracker, a former British Special Forces agent named Conrad, played by Tom Hiddleston, and there's a war photographer played by Brie Larson. I forget her name, unfortunately. She is very much the girl. I'll get to that in sort of the negatives. And afterwards, Packard questions Randolph what's going on, and he says, okay, this was the real purpose of this mission. I was on a ship that they said sank. It wasn't. We came across something. This harkens back. He was on the ship that basically first spotted Godzilla near the Bikini Atoll, where the atomic testing was going on. And now the real mission, purpose of the mission was to prove the existence of monsters, or mutos, which was massive unidentified terrestrial organisms. What they refer to as the mutos are the two creatures that Godzilla was fighting in that 2014 Godzilla movie. Yeah, 2014, sorry. Just touching on that movie very briefly, I did like that movie. I acknowledge there's a few dead spaces. It's maybe too long. But a lot of the other complaints I don't really get. Like, I know a lot of people were excited to see Bryan Cranston in that, but it's like, why are you going to a Godzilla movie for actors? Anyway, like I said, he talks about mutos. Basically, these two groups kind of got separated in the midst of the Kong fight, and Packard and Randolph and a couple of, there are like 3 or 4 other guys, and then the photographer, Conrad, and 2 other guys are going through, and they come across a tribe, and with the tribe is Hank Marlin, that's the John C. Reilly character. He's obviously the pilot who crashed. The Japanese pilot named Ikari Gunpei, he was killed, and they had found a tribe, though. Like I said, they find a tribe, and Hank was living with the tribe. Gunpei was killed, but not by Kong. And the tribe doesn't live in fear of Kong. Kong is actually their sworn protector. What they live in fear of are what Hank calls the skull crawlers. Yeah, and the skull crawlers. And basically, there were a lot of Kongs on the island. The skull crawlers have killed off most of them, but Kong managed to fight off a bunch of them, including a big one. However, the seismic grenades that they have been dropping have, the seismic charges, I mean, that they've been dropping, have woken up the skull crawlers, and now they're back menacing the island. It's at this point that we kind of slows down. You get, like, cuts to various groups, and they're interacting with other creatures. There's a giant yak, there's a giant spider, they're pterosaur-like birds. Like, they're not quite dinosaurs, but they're not fully birds either. They have like a saw-beak type look to them. Then, Kong fights a giant octopus. Let's see, the tribe, they don't live in fear of Kong. Basically, throughout this, back with Packard's group, he's basically swearing vengeance for the men that Kong killed. He wants to kill Kong. And then back with the group with Hank. Hank has pieced together some downed planes into a makeshift boat. And he takes them up the river where they reunite with Packard's men. He wants to go after Kong. Hank tries to talk them out of it because they're going into the Skullcrawler territory. They go into the mass grave, which is where the Kong remains are, basically. Sorry. That's where they encounter, that's where they, I keep wanting to call them mutos because, to be honest, the Skullcrawlers look a lot like the mutos, except they're a little smaller and they're green. The mutos, I think, were black, and they had those weird, the mutos absorb things. I think the Skullcrawlers just more eat things. Anyway, Packard wants to kill Kong. They try to talk him out of it on several occasions. Eventually, Packard's men kind of pull a mutiny on him and say, no, this isn't right, we shouldn't be trying to kill Kong. And Kong eventually just kills Packard before anything else can happen. Unfortunately, in the midst of this, the giant, I keep wanting to say muto, not Skullcrawler, the giant Skullcrawler wakes up. Kong manages to fight it off and kill it, aiding the people in getting to this rendezvous point so that they can be rescued. During the credits sequence, we get John C. Reilly returning home to his wife and the son he never met because the son was born, I think it was about a month before Hank got stranded on the island. And then we get to the post-credit sequence, which is Conrad and the photographer whose name I'll get to that as a bit of a complaint. Conrad and the photographer are being interrogated, and it turns out they're being interrogated by Monarch, and then Brooks, who was like Randolph's chief assistant, and there comes in and says, "You don't understand. Kong was not the only king." And they start showing him these slides, and it's slides of the caves, and then there's illustrations on the caves, and then you see, a flying dinosaur, Rodan. You see a giant Mothra. You see Godzilla, and then you see Godzilla fighting a three-headed dragon, King Ghidorah. And obviously that's setting up for the next Godzilla movie. Obviously also, I think it's all been confirmed that they're going to do a new King Kong versus Godzilla. Sorry. Okay, so overall thoughts. Really good pacing. I would say this thing was about as long as the 2014 Godzilla movie, but it didn't quite have the dead spaces in it. Basically, you could tell everything was building. They had good Kong sequences interspersed throughout, so you didn't have to wait long time to see Kong, which is the main reason you go to see Kong. You don't go to see acting performances. That being said, the characters are not developed. Like I said, I don't remember the photojournalist's name. Packard's pretty one note. He's kind of the career military guy who, when a war ends, kind of gets left out in the cold because there's nothing for him to really go home to. There's this one character named Chapman who's basically he's right at that beginning. He's like, "Oh, I can't wait to go see my kid. I've missed so many of his birthdays. I'm hoping I can reconnect with him." It's like, yeah, you're a goner. John Goodman's good in it, but John Goodman's pretty much good in anything. So, and like I said, even then, the characters are not very well developed. Like Conrad is about the only one really. Sorry. Conrad's really the only one that has any sort of backstory. His father was missing in action in World War II. Also, except he went down over Hamburg. He's not Hank. That's different. I will say on this, like I said, great effects, good pacing throughout. Story's really good because, again, they intersperse everything. You kind of get a lot of good points. Great soundtrack. Again, it's the end of the Vietnam War, and so you get a lot of late '60s, early '70s music throughout. There's really good humor with Hank, the John C. Reilly character, obviously being sort of out of touch. Wondering, the Cubs finally won World Series? No, they kind of stink. Oh. Yeah, I was like, oh, we did put a man on the moon. Oh, really? What do they eat up there? Tang and there's a few other points like that. There's some good humor in there. The characters, like I said, not very well developed. Pez, what was I going to talk about too? Like I said, it's a pretty solid movie. Not a lot of defaults, just maybe minor nitpicks in there, here and there. Shoot. Yeah, sorry for the edits here, folks. My mind locks on something and I just can't remember it. Now I'm stuck. And anyway, overall thoughts again. Gonna give this movie a B. I don't know if I'd really push it up into A territory where you have to drop everything and must go see it, but it's a satisfying ride throughout. Okay, trailer time. Let's go with our new trailers. We have Power Rangers, which I can't actually show any pictures of because it's a Lionsgate film, and Lionsgate tends to be pretty heavy with the content ID. Which is, by the way, Power Rangers is the next movie we're going to be seeing. That comes out on the 24th. We have King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, which, just looks kind of... I'm trying to figure out if it's like a modern version of King Arthur, or are we getting another, like that 2004 one that, I forget who directed it, with Clive Owen, and Keira Knightley. That was pretty forgettable. And then we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Again, one of those at least I finally got to see that. Still haven't seen Spider-Man Homecoming in the theater. Anyway, and then we also had Life. That comes on the 17th, so thankfully we won't be seeing that trailer anymore. Likewise, Chips. Again, thankfully, we won't have to see that one anymore. That comes out on the 24th. And then we got Alien Covenant again. Okay, so, anyway, next video up will be the Fantastic Four 1, 2, 3, 4 review. I don't think I'm going to have anything up between then and the Power Rangers review, so see you all then.